the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Jeanne Ives, former state representative, former candidate for governor, just last year, 2018. She announced last night that she is running for Congress against Green New Deal Congressman Sean Casten. Jeanne Ives' introductory announcement video.
I will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate others who do. My name is Jeanne Ives. This is the oath I took as a West Point cadet and carried with me as a Wheaton City Councilman, state representative, and candidate for governor. This way, everyone I served with and those I worked with knew I operated in good faith. It's an approach by which I've turned honest disagreements with other folks into reasonable compromises for the benefit of the families I represented. This is precisely what's lacking in Congress today. Demonization of disagreement is crippling our politics and dividing our country. It leaves people vulnerable to the most extreme ideas and false choices. We do not need to be subjects of big government or servants of big corporations. We can enforce the rule of law while treating all in a humane manner. We can be good stewards of our environment while promoting the free enterprise system that has enriched our lives and improved our standard of living. And we can provide quality health care for people with pre-existing conditions while protecting patient choice. This past July 4th, as we celebrated America's 243rd birthday, Lieutenant Colonel Harry Stewart, a Tuskegee Airman, celebrated his 95th birthday, writing, and I quote, "July 4 is my birthday, but I celebrate my country's birthday too. America was not perfect in the 1940s and is not perfect today. Yet I fought for it then, and I would do so again. I am running for Congress because I owe a debt of gratitude to those who came before me, like Lieutenant Colonel Stewart, and I bear a responsibility to those who come after me. We are a free people, we are a generous people, and we are a practical people. Our laws should reflect this truth. Politicians come and go, but our values will endure as long as we demand that those we elect embrace them. This is your demand to make and my commitment to honor. Honor it, I will. I'm Jeanne Ives, your candidate for Congress.
And again, up against Sean Casten, who's a freshman. And I don't think, unsurprisingly, Sean Casten got the scrutiny he deserved in 2018. Chicago Press Corps customarily asleep at the switch, particularly with Sean Casten's own words. Oh, and by the way, I mean, I'll do what nobody in the Chicago Press Corps would ever do, in case it's not patently obvious. I supported and was involved in Jeanne Ives' campaign when she ran for governor against Bruce Rauner, and I'll be involved in this campaign and supporting her for Congress, just so you know. Sean Casten, in a debate with Peter Roskam on Chicago Tonight, asked, who do you consider a leader, somebody whose words and belief system aligned with yours, somebody that you look to for intellectual guidance? And Sean Casten said Dan Savage. Dan Savage, who is a columnist and author. He is also a radical left bigot, hate monger. This is some of the lowlights from Dan Savage, Sean Casten's intellectual North Star.
Listen, the person I embraced, and I will stand to this day, is Dan Savage.
Right-wing fundamentalist, conservative, evangelical Christian pieces of shit.
The right-wing religious f***ers beat the shit out of us.
Most of those people are very religious people who were spiritually abused. You know, they've bought into this idea that there is this higher power, that there is this Jesus Christ. I'm an atheist and a humanist. I wish they were all f***ing dead.
I wish they were all effing dead. That was Sean Casten talking about Republicans. I mean, excuse me, Dan Savage talking about Republicans on behalf of Sean Casten, apparently.
Here's Sean Casten, that's his idol.
And it was also Dan Savage who said of evangelical Christians, they are pieces of blank. Okay? So this is going to be a high-profile race, and there are going to be millions and millions of dollars spent, and there's going to be all kinds of attacks. and Jeanne Ives can stand and deliver, as you've seen. But just so you know who we're dealing with, because I don't think people have a real sense of who Sean Casten is, how radical he is. He is um, much like, I don't know, um, uh, Al Green, not that Al Green, who brought impeachment
Right.
resolution against Trump last week, an honorary socialist Spice Girl. The socialist Spice Girls agenda, policy agenda, is Sean Casten's policy agenda. Deindustrializing America, eliminating private health insurance, the whole kit and caboodle. And he is a spiteful hate monger who, in addition to the Dan Savage connection, Sean Casten, in his own words, just to show you why he is so supportive of Dan Savage, Sean Casten compared President Trump to Osama bin Laden. That's your congressman in the Western Burbs, folks. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by the candidate. She is former state representative and current congressional candidate, Jeanne Ives. Jeanne, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Oh, great to hear from you, Dan and Amy. Thanks for having me on your show.
And so the from the speech that you gave last night, which is posted, and your intro video, the focus of why you're running is what?
Well, I think my son, who introduced me last night, pretty much summed it up. He thinks that my voice needs to be in Congress because he understands that the politicians in Congress are making decisions, in many cases poor decisions, that are going to affect his life in the future. And so I'm running for my kids, your kids, anybody's kids, the future of this country. Look, we're going to have to answer this question in 2020. Do you believe in freedom and the free enterprise system? Do you believe that it is the best way to solve any of our problems? Or do you think that more government is the best way to solve problems? And Sean Casten, he firmly believes that more government equals more freedom, and none of us believe that that is true.
Is Sean Casten, has he authored any bills, or is he just a Democratic mouthpiece there in Washington, D.C.?
He has co-sponsored bills that, for example, on Green New Deal, he has called what AOC has put together. He says, I appreciate her sense of urgency, but see, Sean Casten wants to own that space because he thinks he's a big, huge climate scientist. But the truth is that he's actually authored and put together legislation that would require corporations to report how much carbon they put out every year, as if they could even measure it. And then they have to report that to the SEC and also report any of the things that they are doing to mitigate CO2. So, this is him, more regulation, more problems for businesses. He does not understand what the 6th District is about. We are about manufacturing. We are people who invest in companies. We are very successful here. We are leaders in everywhere. We have the most talented individuals. We have great schools. And we should be leading the policy agenda. And instead, we have him as a representative. It's just embarrassing.
He made a big issue of health care, as did his fellow traveler, Lauren Underwood, in 2018 to take out the 2 Republicans they took out. What is your sort of compare and contrast with Casten when it comes to health care and health insurance specifically, and even more specifically, the argument that the left made in those districts, but around the nation, against congressional candidates from the Republican side, that Republicans would not protect people with pre-existing conditions?
Well, it's kind of unfortunate because the Republicans at the national level pretty much failed to put that entire argument in context. The truth is, in Illinois and in 44 other states, 23 years prior to Obamacare, we had a high-risk pool that protected people with pre-existing conditions. And I've had multiple people come up to me who have been in our high-risk pool in Illinois and said, that is the solution for my health care. I want that program back. I wish it hadn't been taken away from me. It gave me better coverage at a cheaper price, and now I'm forced into this Obamacare plan, and I had everything I needed in the high-risk pool. So this idea that we didn't do anything about pre-existing conditions prior to Obamacare showing up is completely false. but they got away with it because nobody pushed back about it. But literally 45 states protected people already with pre-existing conditions, and that's what we need to get back to. We need to basically say you're going to do this program, but states, you implement it the way that you want to, and let states be innovators on the best way to make that happen. So, look, Sean Casten, it's out on his website. You can read it. He's all about universal health care. He wants Medicare for all to be an option for anybody who wants into it. If you do that, you will collapse the entire Medicare system that was saved for our seniors who had paid into it over time for their entire working life. So he's eventually going to single payer. He would destroy the private insurance market, where you get your insurance from your employer, which 181 million people do in the United States. But again, this is more government is better for you. And I'm going to tell you that it's better for you, and you're going to like it. I mean, this is who he is. I prefer innovation. I think the marketplace is where we are going to get the best value for consumers, and we just need to open that up in the healthcare area.
Now, last year you came so close to unseating Governor Rauner during the primary, but now you're going to have to challenge his former lieutenant governor, Evelyn Sanguinetti. Did that give you any pause or any, second thought as to whether or not to go for this, knowing that she's already...
No, not at all. Look, Evelyn, I served with her on Wheaton City Council. I understood who she was then, which was a big government person who, put on property tax increases on businesses for nonprofits. She stole people's property rights too on other bills. Look, she just we don't need her in D.C. We don't need her voice because she fell in with the Rauner Republican model of taxpayer-funded abortion on demand. Bailouts of big corporations, sanctuary state. She's behind him, cheering for sanctuary state. I don't know anybody who doesn't believe in the 6th District that we should implement the rule of law. And yet Evelyn stood side by side with Rauner as he did all of his nonsense. And the voters rejected her. They, in the 6th Congressional District, the Ives campaign won versus the Rauner-Sanguinetti campaign in the primary. So we're very confident that the primary is going to be easy, and we need to just basically take on Sean Casten.
With respect to the district, why should people believe that it's still winnable? I mean, the history of Republicans in Illinois is as soon as a Democrat takes over what was once a Republican area, the Republicans just abdicate and they're never heard from again. We've seen it on the North Shore. We saw it in the South suburbs. Now we're seeing it in the Western burbs. What's to prevent the onslaught from continuing?
Look, the district has changed. The demographics are different. But as far as we can tell from polling that has been done, it still leans Republican. It's a winnable seat. And honestly, and it's actually about a third when you look at the political makeup of it, about a third Democrat, a third independent, a third Republican. I will tell you, there are Democrats that disagree with Sean Casten that abortion is nothing more than a gallbladder surgery. They like their insurance they get from their employer. They're not going to want to give that up. They live in the 6th District because of our great schools in our safe streets that are enforced by state's attorneys that believe in the rule of law, unlike, Kim Fox. So these are people that have built their lives here. They expect their kids to live by the rules, they're not going to vote for Sean Casten once he's been exposed. It's just that he has never been exposed for who he really is. And I have confidence that when we talk about core policy decisions that he's making versus where we should go as a nation, I have confidence that they're going to agree with that we need to protect freedom, protect the free enterprise system that has made the entire 6th District a haven for businesses, quite frankly, a place where people can feel confident that their innovation is going to be rewarded in the private market and in the free enterprise system. And so I think they're going to come home.
You mentioned yesterday in your announcement speech that former Congressman Peter Roskam is endorsing your candidacy. What was that conversation like? Why did Peter say he's backing you?
Peter told me on the phone that he had his full support and his endorsement. He believes in me. He's seen me. I've been his He's been my constituent as a state rep, so he's been watching me for the 6 years. He understands that my voice will be very powerful in D.C. in conversations about policy. And Peter served our district faithfully. And Peter understood at the core, America is a great nation, and it's because we live as free men and women. And he understands the history of our nation, and he never failed in any speech to repeat that to any audience he was talking about, whether it was about economics or whether it was about, national defense. He always went back to, we are a great nation, and we are a nation built on laws. And I think Peter sees that. I'm going to be the one who supports that same sort of agenda.
She is Jeanne Ives. She's former state representative, former Republican gubernatorial candidate, now a Republican candidate for Congress in the 6th District.